Hello and happy Thursday, everyone. Today we will be doing a rundown of Dev Diary 87, which is the first Dev Diary post-release of Voice of the People. In it, they actually don't talk about Voice of the People very much. It's mostly, a lot of the substantive talk is about the future patches, or the future things which they had spoiled before on Steam, so you can kind of see what's upcoming. They talk about it in a little more depth, and so that part is very exciting, and so we'll just go through this relatively quickly. It's a relatively short Dev Diary as well, certainly a lot shorter than, of course, the last one, which was a whole bunch of patch notes. What they're doing is they're mainly fixing bugs. They have a bug patch for next Tuesday that is going to just fix up bugs. We're going to get no new content, obviously, within the next week. And then they are cataloging and taking in, incorporating feedback based on the new journal entries. Some of these are not journal entries, but some of the events are wild because they give permanent bonuses and malices, but okay. Immersion packs are meant to enhance, I think this is the most important paragraph. No, this is the next one. So, immersion packs are meant to enhance the depth of a particular aspect of the game. For Voice of the People, this was political agitation and revolutions. My estimation, they've done a pretty good job. France is a great country to showcase this mechanics with, and we also used French aesthetics for the wealth of new art included in Voice of the People, but the intent was not to make a country pack. I think that this is probably really important to emphasize here. The intent was not to make a country pack. Some people are complaining that, you know, the events are not super robust and the lawnmower outside is too loud, but the new map, UI, skin, and command room table are available even if you don't play France, and with the theme, blah blah blah. They're talking about rolling out Dawn of Thunder, which they'll talk about more before. Rest assured, we will be rolling out country-specific expansion products in addition to immersion packs, and this is particularly exciting news because they're saying they are going to do stuff that is more immersive for the particular countries, which means France is actually probably going to eventually fall by the wayside and be a little behind, but it's going to be really exciting. You know, what was spoiled was that next March is when the first DLC is coming out, and so this in particular is really nice news because this means maybe every 2 months we get a country pack or something like this, where we're going to get, you know, localized type of events and flavor, and this is pretty exciting. Of course, they don't have any sort of timeline specifically with this that they've released, just their new art pack and their new the dates of their new art pack and their new DLC. Okay, I think this is the most important paragraph when it comes to kind of talking or thinking about the release of this Dev Diary. A lot of people have been like, look, it's not worth the money, blah, blah, blah. After the release, we received feedback suggesting that Update 1.3, released alongside Voice of the People, had a greater impact than the DLC itself. It's weird that they've used DLC and flavor pack interchangeably. I feel like they shouldn't. But okay, this is particularly because we need to introduce a significant number of new events to support the new Agitators and revamp the Revolution and Progression system. However, the main reason for this perception is our approach to DLC development, where we don't want to lock essential mechanics behind paywalls. Mechanics spread out over multiple DLCs tend to fragment the community, make mod management harder, complicates building new features on top of old ones, and can cause features to become unbalanced over time. This is definitely the case in EU4. As an example of this approach, based on your feedback, we elected to include Exiles mechanic in the free update rather than in the DLC to address concerns about future gameplay balance. While there is a risk at the perceived value, there is a risk this reduces the perceived value of the DLC. It ensures that the core gameplay experience remains intact and allows for future expansions without limitations. I think that this is great that they're doing it like this, and I also think you know, as a consumer, I think that this is what I've noted. This is my perception as well. A lot of the stuff is in the free patch rather than in the DLC itself. And I think as a consumer, I think this is a good faith effort on behalf of Paradox. And with, you know, obviously they're acting in their financial interest as well because they're trying to make people happy. But I think an additional addendum to this is if you are enjoying the new content and you are also really enjoying the game, even if you don't necessarily need to buy the DLC, you should consider buying the DLC just to support the company, you know, because And also, you can try out the new content without buying the DLC. A lot of it is there, and if you like it, then you can buy it, and if you don't like it, then you can avoid buying it, and so this kind of lets you test it. But I think that as a consumer, the way you should kind of approach these sorts of things is like, it's a little like torrenting, you could torrent a movie, and then if you really like the movie, you buy it. In a similar idea, you're getting access to most of the content, but if you really like it, you should consider buying the DLC to support the company, and also to signal to Paradox that they should continue and put resources into development of Victoria 3. Okay, so we have Voice of People offers a range of unique content, such as new events, stunning artwork, blah, 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 etc. We do not believe the answer is to simply paywall more features. Instead, we strive to improve from the criticisms content of Voice of the People without complicating our principal focus, which remains the core gameplay experience. I've quite enjoyed it. I might make a video on it. I'm not sure yet. I might make it after I come back from my trip. We'll see. Or before, I have to take a consideration on it. On the topics of lessons learned, in case you missed it, what was originally pre-order for Voice of the People, the Agitators, are now available to everyone who gets it, the Voice of the People the day after release. So it seems like you can, well, actually, now it's after the day after release, so I'm not sure if you can still get these guys, but some fans liked them. It doesn't seem super essential that you necessarily have all there are agitators other than the historic ones, and so it doesn't seem necessary. Although it does seem that there's a lot more agitators that are European, which affects balance, but this is kind of a separate consideration. Finally, a note about the more distant future. As many of you have noticed, with the availability of the expansion pass to upgrade the game from the base game to the Grand Edition, 2 additional products for Victoria 3 were soft announced. The aforementioned Dawn of Wonder art pack and Sphere of Influence, the first major expansion, which is slated for March. We can't get into a lot of detail on these on the Steam pages yet, and as a result, I've seen a lot of speculation around them. There are a few things I'd like to clarify prior to the official announcement. First off, Dawn of Wonder will include a night-day cycle. You can see this here. It will be super customizable. Naturally, you can turn it on and off, blah, blah, blah. And then there's one where you can even sync it with your computer game clock for cozy nighttime play. I think that this actually is pretty neat, although generally cosmetic sorts of things do not move the needle for me, but I do think it is pretty neat. It doesn't have any effect on the paper map view, of course, but if you enjoy watching and listening to your little towns while playing, it makes the world come alive. Blah, blah, blah. That sort of thing. Secondly, regarding Sphere of Influence, as mentioned in the description, among several other features, will be major expansion will add power blocks, which will let you spread your influence across the country via soft power. I think that this is the play pattern that is really a lot of fun in Victoria 3, and blobbing is less fun, and so I'm super excited for this. I've spotted a few concerns that Sphere of Influence mechanic that serve the same purpose was already included in the Victoria 2 base game, so I'd like to clarify what this expansion already contains. I think I butchered that sentence, but let's continue. Victoria 3's base game features already has features to model the Sphere of Influence mechanic from Victoria 2, subjects and customs unions. In fact, it's not uncommon to hear players referring to customs union or subjects as sphering. Members in a customs union share a unified market but have no diplomatic ties, blah, blah, blah. The ability to influence, control, and dominate other countries, force them into your market sphere, is already something you can do in Victoria 3. Okay. The idea behind power blocks to make a shared market merely one of the numerous ways in which countries can exploit or can cooperate or exploit with each other. I'm really hoping for, large-scale, defensive alliances against specific nations, or something like this, to prevent, just the 1K infamy opener sort of play, or to really punish it and make it so that you have to maneuver and, behave a little bit diplomatically. But some people don't like this. The most fundamental of these will be the core mechanic itself, will be part of the free update delivered alongside the expansion. Okay. Much like Voice of the People, we don't want to fall in the trap of making the base game on its own obsolete by locking mechanics behind paid expansions. The various ways in which players can customize power blocks should help to make different great powers more distinct, enhance interaction and dependencies between nations, make influence and prestige feel more meaningful, and so on. all of this sounds super exciting. Of course, they cannot go into any sort of detail because it is slated for nearly next year, and so obviously they can't. They do not want to overpromise, underdeliver these types of things, and also, yeah, like if they can't just get a mechanic to work, they don't want to announce it and then this sort of thing. But this is what they're trying to do, which is very exciting. While some of these options will be in the free update, others will be in the paid expansion. Sure. So when I hear you wonder why call it Sphere of Influence, simple. It's a terrific term to describe what sorts of features it contains. Also, notably, I've been complaining about diplomacy being the absolute worst part of the game, or the part that is most off-putting to new players. I am really excited for this update because I think after this update, which, okay, I get that it's like 9 months away or whatever, I think I will be able to recommend the game to my friends, which is not currently at the point I stand. Even though I really enjoy the game, it has a lot of really frustrating experiences, especially to, the more casual strategy game player. And I think that this fixing diplomacy and adding a ton of depth into that, where you will have this, like, this diplomatic sort of thing alongside this economic thing, will allow for a very robust system, that is less focused on the warfare in general. And hopefully they fix the way fronts assign, but that's a separate issue. So I hear you wonder why. It may evoke the memory of the beloved mechanic from Victoria 2, but the expansion itself is intended to introduce a broad enhancement of diplomatic gameplay with a variety of features. And as always, the fundamentals will not be paywalled. On that note, Sphere of Influence expansion blurb also says that investing into foreign companies will be a feature, and that there have been concerns that this means we are going back on our earlier promise of making foreign expansion available in a free update. So this is kind of important. To be clear, we are always going to allow for foreign expansion in your subject nations, with or without the Spheres of Influence expansion. The expansion itself will add a great deal more options to power blocks, foreign expansion, interference in other countries' politics, and much more. But the core systems will be in the free update, since that's how we keep them current and fresh, and can build on them in the future. Yeah, I just remember, like, EU4, like, some things just being super essential and feeling locked behind paywall, and I remember so many posts like, okay, if I can afford EU4 and 3 DLCs, how can I make the game as minimally broken as possible types of posts, and it was just always sad. And so that they are doing this kind of ahead of time, where they are looking forward and being like, we're not going to break the game because of a DLC inclusion, I think is a very good sign that they are planning to support Victoria 3 for some time. Although whenever I look at the Victoria 3 numbers, I do get a little bit nervous, but so far it doesn't seem to be going, Imperator territory. The release for Dawn of War and Sphere of Influence, or Dawn of Wonder, and Sphere of Influence listed on Steam are placeholder dates until their respective announcements, but do roughly reflect reality. That is, we can expect to see, I think September was when they said the Dawn of Wonder would be coming along, and so I think that's like roughly 5 months from now, and then March for the other one, so that's like 9 or 10 months, something like this, which is Spheres of Influence is scheduled for early 2024 to allow sufficient time to implement new features of considerable complexity, but that's not how long you have to wait for another major update. This is super good news. We are also planning another free major update with open beta before 2023 is over, similar to the scope of our 1.2 release. I anticipate if the DLC is going to be diplomacy, that this is going to be perhaps fixing war. And so it looks like we have, over the next 9 months, 3 major updates or that we will be seeing. One will be Dawn of Wonder, which will be commensurate, perhaps, with Voice of the People, where it is primarily, there's like a bit of there's a bit of flavor, there's a bit of, localization, there's some systems, but it's not necessarily deeply going into mechanics. And then a mechanics heavy update, which I imagine will be the next one, before Dawn of Wonder, and then following that, another mechanics-heavy update in Sphere of Influence. So we are planning to do another free update along with blah, blah, blah. We already said this. Some of the improvements to diplomatic gameplay we're currently developing for the update alongside Sphere of Influence is targeting this release rather than the one in Q1 2024. So they are working on some diplomacy stuff. Thank God. So my number one complaint about the game has been for some time now, diplomatic plays are super opaque, and if you are a new player, you're just like just getting absolutely rampaged by the UK repeatedly when you're just like, oh, I want to annex this like Arabian minor, and then the UK is like, nah, dog. I think that this is probably the most frustrating gameplay experience for new players. You know, roughly speaking, you know, people complain about complex fronts, but roughly speaking, for most wars, the front system works fine. It's just when you have those mega, like, weird wars that it, like, really breaks down. And for most part, if you have two generals assigned to a front, you won't just get absolutely rolled by them unassigning, reassigning, this type of stuff. And so... Okay, you will hear a bit more about that next week when we return to give you an update in our post-release plans. So we will be hearing more on that, and I hope this has cleared up some of your questions. In closing, we are very happy to see an uptick in players since update 1.3 Voice of the People. I was excited to see that too, and we hope you enjoy having a fun time with it. Or you are enjoying your time with it. So, kind of the big takeaways here, just to conclude, is we have them talking about their philosophy. They're not going to lock essential things behind paywalls. Great. They are talking about Dawn of Wonder, not Dawn of War, which of course will include the night-day cycle. I assume there will be some country localization a little bit alongside that, especially since they were saying they wanted to do, you know, some patches focused on countries. And so it will be like Dawn of Wonder plus England. The sun never sets. Ha 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 ha. So that would make a lot of sense. And then also, we got some news about both, and then also we got some news about spheres of influence, which is, in my opinion, kind of filling the gameplay patterns that, you know, in addition to the economic and political ones, this is really fleshing out what I think Victoria 3 gameplay should be about. So I'm super big excited about that. I hope you are too. If you like this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and other than that, have a good day.